The next talk is by Antonio Terceiro. How can I help Debian as a programmer? Have fun.
Hello everyone, thanks for watching. I'm just sharing my screen here. Okay, so the idea for this talk started in Debian Brazil. We are doing an online event for the past month with one online talk every night during the week. And one of our colleagues does traditional talk with title, I'm not a programmer, how can I help Debian? To help demystify the notion that people need to be hardcore hackers to help Debian. And then he shows all the ways of people who are not programmers can help Debian. And I always wanted to do the other side of the talk, which is how can programmers help Debian? Because most of the time we only advertise packaging contributions for technical work, and I think there's lots of opportunities for people who are interested in programming but not necessarily want to learn packaging, do everything that involves. So I'm beginning with telling you a Christmas story. I As a developer, when I became acquainted with the notion of automated testing, I couldn't do anything else. I mean, I can't understand how people can still in 2020 program without having automated tests and without the ability of knowing when something they do breaks. And I just can't wrap my mind around it. So I'm really obsessed with testing. I taught myself several different frameworks on several different languages, and I'm always trying to write and maintain automated tests for my projects. I also like Debian a lot. I've been a Debian contributor for 16 years now, and I think in last year I helped organize a DebConf in Curitiba, where I live currently, and that was pretty nice. And I'm always trying to um, align my interests with Debian, and in the automated testing area is one of the areas that I try to do that a lot. So in back then, some time ago, I got to know that some tool called auto package test existed, and it has the goal of supporting automated testing of Debian packages when they are installed in a system, so that you can test the package when it's installed in a system. It really works. It was started in the context of Ubuntu in 2006 by Ian Jackson. It was later maintained by Martin Pitt. And in 2013, there was only 100 packages supported auto package test. And I was wondering, I mean, I had known the tool for a while, and I was waiting for someone to come up with some service that ran auto package test on every package on the Debian archive, and that service that just didn't come up. Okay, I had this thought in my mind that someone should do a service, to create a service to run auto package tests against the Debian archive, and I kept waiting for someone to do it, and someone never did it. So in the Christmas break of 2013, I started doing some experiments to see how difficult could it be, and ci.debian.net was born in it was a really simple thing. It was just a shell script running all of the packages in a loop. At the time, there was only 100, so it was fine. And then I quickly realized that was not enough. And then fast forward to today, we went from, well, almost zero in this scale packages with auto package test support to 15,000 today. We see that most packages fail, most tests pass their tests, and it's really nice to be involved with something that's contributing to increase the quality of Debian. And then more recently, the test results are being used to control the testing migration. So if something has a test suite and that test suite is not working properly, we assume that that's a problem in the package and it's now a regression. So the package doesn't migrate to testing. This was mostly driven by Paul Gevers, so I want to thank him very much because I didn't have the energy to pursue this, and it's a very nice addition to the Debian release process, in my opinion. So the state of Debian CI today, it's well maintained. I'm still interested and able to support this and have a lot of fun doing it. There's lots of issues to be fixed and improvements that could be made in all parts of the platform. So that includes DebCI itself, which is the tool that provides the interface and the scheduling of the tests. Auto package test, which is the tool that runs tests locally. So you can use all of those locally to develop tests. And then AutoDepate, which is a tool to automate creating the test suite specification for common sets of packages. So for instance, Ruby packages or Perl packages, you don't have to write the same specification over and over because those types of packages have a common way of declaring the test suite, so you don't have to do it over and over again. You can do it centrally in AutoDepate. And currently the bus factor, which is the number of people that needs to be hit by a bus for this to become unmaintained, is very low. So for the system maintenance, Paul and I share the workload there pretty nice. So he does a lot of things in maintaining the system, but for the code part, the bus factor is 1. So if I got hit by a bus, or if I lost interest, or if something happens to me, then the code is pretty much unmaintained. So this is a problem because I don't think people who volunteer their time for Debian should become slaves of that work, and they should be able to step aside, and new people should be able to come and help bringing that part of Debian forward. So now I'm going to do a very quick explanation of how Debian works. Debian is a distribution, so it works by taking code from upstream and integrating that code in a consistent distribution, and then providing that software to users via packages, and then getting feedback from those users in terms of bugs, in terms of patches, and then triaging that and seeing what makes sense in the upstream use case and what makes sense only in Debian, and then forwarding the ones that make sense for upstream. And Debian has a pretty impressive way of working with its different releases. So we all know this. We have an unstable release, a testing release, and a stable release, and testing becomes stable every 2 years, and stuff migrates from unstable, which is our testing playground, to testing every 5, 2, or 10 days with no critical bugs and fulfilling some quality criteria. And then this process needs quite some automation to work. In terms of scale, as of this month, I took these numbers a few days ago. Debian since the beginning of the year, so we are not even in the middle of the year yet. Only 5 months have gone by. We already have more than 1,000 unique contributors, and those people need to communicate. They need to coordinate. They need to collaborate, and for that we need tools and services. The size of the Debian archive increases with each release by a lot. And today we have more than 30,000 source packages. Those packages need to be maintained, need to be improved, need to be tested. We have a very large dependency tree, and I have some examples here. For instance, a very simple package, bash, has at least 5 packages in its dependency tree. So if there is a problem in any of those, then that problem could potentially affect bash. If you go to a less simple package like ASCII Doctor, you can barely read. I'm sure you guys over the stream can't read this. I barely can read that in a 24-inch screen. And if you go further with a pretty simple package, but still less simple than ASCII Doctor, which is MUT, then I practically can't read that on my screen. So you see the size of the problem here. So there's a lot of ongoing work that needs to be done for Debian to be put together. All of those packages in that huge dependency tree, all of those packages in there need to be installable. They need to build from source. They need to receive security updates. They need to not have critical bugs. They have to be of an acceptable quality overall, and they have to fulfill several other criteria. And every time a package is updated, that can create problems in different parts of the distribution. So since our job is to integrate the different packages that came from different upstream with sometimes different objectives and different ways of working, we need to make them work together. And it is just impossible for people to do it by hand. So that's why we need services and tools. And then those services and tools need a lot of the same work that we need for packages and some more. So they also need to be maintained. They need to receive fixes, to be improved, to be upgraded when there's a new Debian release. And sometimes Debian services have parts that don't work with new Debian release. They need to be fixed, and we need people to do that work. And now we are going to discuss how you can help. I'm going to highlight a few projects based on a call. I sent an email, I think, a week ago to Debian project with asking people for feedback and preparing this talk. I wasn't even planning on presenting it in the mini-debconf. I was mostly preparing it for the Debian Brazil event next week, but I thought it was interesting. I could have some good feedback, so I decided to do it also on the MiniDebConf. So I'm going to present that list of projects from the feedback I got. This is not by any means a complete list, so everything else in Debian needs your help, both on the technical part, that is packages, services, tools, ports. Everything needs more people helping. And the non-technical part, publicity, community, events, translation, and everything else that needs to be done that's not packaging or not related directly to the producing of the distribution, but it's still needed for us to work together. And I'm using technical and non-technical in quotes because I don't really like that distinction. Because, for instance, publicity needs technical knowledge in the area of publicity, and translation needs technical knowledge in the area of translating. So I'm not really a fan of this differentiation, but we often use it. So I use that as well. And the topic of programming is to happen to just be the focus of this particular talk, but I want to emphasize that everything in Debian needs help. And if you want to help Debian, you should do it. There's a hopefully full, not full, but a more complete list of Debian services on that address. That I'll upload these slides to the wiki later, so you don't need to take notes or anything. That the wiki page is a list of Debian services. Is probably not complete, but it lists a lot of services that are not mentioned here, and probably also need your help. So how you can get started? First step, as with any free software project that requires development, it's to get a development instance running locally. So you want to download the source, you want to look for instruction on how to set up, which packages you need installed for it to work, and you need to make it run locally. That's the first thing you need to do. It's important to say that you don't need permission from anyone to read the source, to run locally, to study how it works, and to try to fix bugs and improvements. And this is what free software means. You don't need people's permission to work on their stuff. Of course, if you are working on a larger change and you are going to touch a lot of the code and change how things work, you want to discuss that first with the people who maintain the project. But usually for simple stuff, you can just do it. In the case of Debian, if you need help, you can use the contact information I'm going to provide for the projects we are seeing here. Or you can also use the Debian mentors group if you can find answers, or if you're stuck somehow and you can find the contacts, the right contacts to talk to. So there was a discussion on Debian mentors and Debian project some time ago where people agreed that the Debian mentors could also be a channel where people can ask questions about working on Debian infrastructure projects. So that's a good place to go if everything else fails. And one thing to keep in mind is that people are busy, and sometimes you won't get an immediate answer. And this is something we have to emphasize too. People who are new to free software, you have to be patient because people have other stuff to do. So now the list of projects. First is my shameless plug of my own project, which is Debian CI. It's a system that runs the auto package test suite for every package in Debian that has support for it. It has continued to be updated since the beginning, and there are still things to do. And is now pretty important in the Debian release process, and I think that's really nice. This is the basic format of the list I'm presenting, and I'm going to give some pointers for people who want to know more about the tools and want to help. DebCI is a service, but it's also a tool. You can install DebCI on your machine and run the test in the very same way that they are run on the infrastructure. So that's useful. You can also use it to set up the auto package test backends to run tests against. The main programming languages used in it are Ruby, Shell, and we also use Chef for configuration management of the service deployment. So what started with a single VM running tests in a loop, it's now almost more than 20 virtual machines in different cloud providers. So it's just impossible to do that by hand. The service is at ci.debian.net, and the source code is on Salsa. You can contact the team on the DebCI channel, OFTC, or via email to debian-ci at list.debian.org. Another tool that needs your help is those three. Those is a dependency analyzer. It's used by QA, the Debian QA team, to analyze, for instance, which packages are not installable in testing. For instance, being installable is a basic criteria for a package in Debian. But it's also using the build D. So every build in the build this uses those three to calculate the build dependencies and install just the package needed for building a package. It's a tool, so you can use it locally, but it's also a service. Uh, it uses OCaml, which is a functional programming language, and lots of packages in this area of calculating dependencies and solve hard NP complete problems are written in functional languages for some reason. Uh, the upstream source code is at the gitlab.com, and the Debian QA service is at Salsa as well. So the contact is Johannes Schauer. That's his email, and you can also find him as Josh on IRC. Another tool also handles dependency graphs is Botch, which mostly used by the Debian Bootstrap team to calc. The bootstrapping problem is interesting. So when you want to start a new Debian port, which is build Debian for a different type of computer than the ones we already support, you have to start somewhere. So you have to bootstrap the system. So you need to use a different. You used to use a regular AMD 64 Intel-based computer, for instance, to compile the packages for that new architecture, and that's where bootstrapping comes in, because you need to know uh, which parts of the Debian archive can be compiled with a minimal set of packages. So that's a pretty difficult problem, and there's people working on that. And Botch is also a OCaml tool. Its source code is that in that URL there, and you can also talk to Josh on IRC. So these were both of his suggestions for this talk. Another thing that needs people's help is DevScript. So everyone who works with packaging knows DevScript. It provides several very useful tools for Debian maintainers, and it has a lot of work to do. Um, it has like hundreds maybe of different tools, and each of them has work to be done. You can see there the number of bugs open, and it's pretty. That's pretty. There's a lot of work to be done. So it's a tool, so it's something that you install on your system. But again, it needs programming work to fix issues and to improve. It's written mostly in Shell, Python, Perl, and Perl is highlighted because the current DevScript maintainer, which is Mattia Risolo, he said that he can't really write Perl and he needs help with people who can write Perl code. So the source code for it is on Salsa, Debian/DevScripts, and there's also a dedicated IRC channel, DevScripts. Uh, License check is also a very useful tool, which is a license checker for source files. So we all know that Debian cares deeply about licenses. So you can see that it has less bugs than DevScript, but even then, it's a decent amount of work to be done there. And Jonas, which is the main maintainer of this tool, and he sent suggestions for people to look at the license check. It's something that's useful for every Debian maintainer as well. It's written in Perl. The source code is there. It's on Salsa on that address. Again, I will share the slides later, so you don't need to take notes now. The Debian key ring. So this was sent to me by Gunnar. They also need help. Well, the Debian key ring is one of the most important data sources for Debian because it's the authoritative list of people who can upload package to Debian and people who can vote in Debian votes and everything. So everything that has authentication based on GPG keys is managed by the Debian keyring team, and they need help. It's a pretty important service for Debian. Programming language is not really clear to me. I didn't have time to investigate more deeply, but you have at least the website and the keyring itself where people can help. I know there is code there. I just didn't have the time to figure out which language they are in. So the service runs at keyring.debian.org, and the Salsa team has a few repositories there where you can help. So I'm listing Gunnar here as contact since he was the one who replied to me. Then comes another very useful service, sources.debian.org, which is a service that publishes and lets you browse the entire source code of Debian. So you can find the source code for any package, and you can use that, for instance, to check stuff in the package source code without having to download everything. It's mostly written in Python. The links are, we have the service itself running on sources.debian.org. The source code is under the QA team on Salsa, so it's salsa.debian.org/QA/dev source. And there is that short URL for the list of bugs on sources.debian.org. And they hang out on the Debian QA IRC channel. Contributors.debian.org is a very important also for Debian. It's where I got the number of 1,219 people contributing to Debian in this year. So it keeps track of people contributing to Debian, and it has different data sources. So it tries to list people who not necessarily work with packaging, because in packages you have the maintainer field, you have the uploaders field, and you know the people who are doing that work. But for other stuff, it's more difficult. So this service has to go on the dedicated data sources and list people who contribute there. It's a service written in Python. So as I said, it runs on contributors.debian.org. The source code is on Salsa under the new maintainer team. And they also have a dedicated sudo package on the Debian BTS for bugs. And you can find the team on the Debian new main channel on IRC. Security team is very important, right? We all want to get security updates for our stable machines, and the work of the security team is very important. They are currently needing people with Python knowledge to help with security-specific features in DAC, which is means Debian Archive Kit, which is the tool that manages the Debian archive, and also with the Debian Security Tracker. So if you want to contribute with Python, then you can talk to the security team. Another thing you might notice when you are browsing packages in Debian is the tags that get added to the packaged metadata. People who do packaging know that that data doesn't come from the source code of the package. It comes from somewhere else. And that somewhere else is debtags, which is a service that let people collaboratively provide categorization for Debian packages. So you go there and you add tags, and those show up in the Debian archive. It's a service mostly written in Python. There's quite a bit of JavaScript as well for the tags editor. The service runs on debtags.debian.org. The source code is at Salsa as well. And the contact is Enrico. Enrico maintains a lot of services, and he does a lot of important work in Debian. It should be really nice if people could help him with this. Another thing that needs help, the Debian wiki. So Moin, which is the software that runs the Debian wiki, needs 2.0 release to happen. So the current maintainers of the Debian wiki need it to be released. So they of course need help with programming. And it's mostly also a Python project. Then you can talk to upstream on moinwiki/moin. And you can also see it running on wiki.debian.org. So it would be nice if there are more people contributing to it upstream and helping to make this release happen. The Debian New Maintainers website is also a project that needs help. It manages everything that people need to do as in relation to their Debian membership. So people who are applying to be Debian developers, they need to go through this. People who need to check who are the Debian developers. So this is the source for that information. It's also a Python project. So the service runs on nm.debian.org. The source code is also on Salsa. And there's also a dedicated sudo package on the BTS called nm.debian.org for bugs against it. And you can contact the team at the Debian New Main channel on IRC. There's also SSO, which is the Debian Single Sign-On Services. It's a little more legacy code at this point because Aliot is deprecated, and we want to move away from that to logging in with Salsa logins, but there are still some services that use the certificates generated by it. So it would be useful, for instance, to drop the Aliot support, which is not working anymore because Aliot itself doesn't work, but it would be nice to add Salsa logins here and allow people to use their Salsa account to get a certificate for the services that still use this SSO certificates. It's again a Python project. The source code is at Salsa as well. There's a dedicated team for it called SSO-team. And the contact, unfortunately, is just Enrico as well. I made some contribution to it some time ago. It's a very interesting project. And also, finally, last but not least, we have the Debian package tracker, which every package maintainer knows. It's a source of very useful information about packages in Debian. And it can also be very useful for users try to figure out which package they want to use or not. It's a service that's mostly written in Python as well. It runs on tracker.debian.org. Source code is on Salsa. Also, they have there's a pretty nice contribution guide, so with instructions on how you can run an instance locally and everything. So it's there's pretty good information there. And the people who maintain it can also be contacted on the Debian QA IRC channel or in the Debian QA mailing list. To conclude, Debian is one of the largest free software projects that exists in the world. It's I like to call it an infinite construction toy set. There is nothing a shortage of things to do if you are interested, but it needs your help. So there, I try to show how big Debian is and how difficult it is to keep that working by hand, and we need tools, and we need people to help with those tools. As I mentioned, I want to mention again, there are several other services and tools that I didn't mention here, but that also need contributions. So that page on the Debian wiki can be a nice reference for people interested. Contribute to Debian will not make you learn a lot of stuff, but will also be a nice addition to your professional career. So if you're Debian participates in a few outreach programs that can provide paid internships on Debian. And if you are eligible, please consider applying. So we have Summer of Code for university students. It works for undergrads, but also works for master and PhD students. It runs during the summer of the Northern Hemisphere. So if you are interested, you have to get in touch with the projects before that, like in the first half of the year, the first quarter of the year. And there's also Outreach, which is a program to include people who are usually underrepresented in free software. So it applies to women, cis and trans men, genderqueer people, and anyone else who faces systematic discrimination in the tech industry. And it's a little more inclusive because it runs in both summers, not only the one in the Northern Hemisphere. That's it. I want to thank Pranav, Moritz, Mattia, Jonas, Paul, Gunnar, Stefano, and Enrico, who provided some inputs for this talk, put this talk together. And those are my contacts. And thank you for watching.
We have plenty questions. Not sure how much time we have. I try to forward them. So, what is a practical way to set up a development instance without having to install zip testing on my daily driver? Do I need to use a VM?
Yeah, if uh, I cannot give a general answer for everything, but I can say that usually a VM is the easiest way, especially if you're not running Debian already. But for instance, for DebCI, I develop it myself running Debian seed, so it's always working on Debian seed, so you don't issue. And we deploy to Debian stable so that it's also tested there. So if you're running some Debian newer than stable, it should work. In general, I would say that especially if you're a newcomer to Debian, is not very sure. It's usually better to start with a VM. Yes.
So, next question. Isn't Salsa SSO happening?
Yes. Yes. So the issue with SSO is that it provides SSL certificates that can be used to authenticate. For instance, Tracker and a few other. DebCI itself uses certificates. I want to add Salsa support, but there are still some services that need those certificates. And if you are not a Debian developer, you don't have an easy way to get those certificates because the alias authentication is broken. So in the meantime, between all projects move to Salsa for SSO, then we still need sso.debian.org to work. And for people who are not Debian developers, we need some other authentication means other than alias to get the certificates.
Have you read Michael Stapelberg's post from 2009 on leaving Debian?
Yes. That's is the question. Is that it?
So,
I mean, he
what
has
would you tell potential contributors?
yes. So Debian is not only one of the largest, but also one of the oldest free software projects that exists. So it's been around since 1993. There's a lot of baggage, so some parts of the infrastructure look outdated, but they are there for a reason. And people in Debian usually don't like throwing stuff out just because they don't look modern enough. I think, and I think we need more people helping to make the infrastructure better and more efficient in today's technology landscape. But there are just some things that in a project the size of Debian just take time to be fixed. I mean, we are a lot better. We have Salsa, we have several other stuff, several other things that people couldn't dream about some time ago, and I think we are moving in a nice direction. I think it just takes time because because Debian is big.
Ah, and we are out of time.
Okay, thank you
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah. Thank you for your talk.
Nice. Bye bye.